Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. There is a fairly newly organized court as part of the judicial system in Coffee County. It's the Veterans Court, and is organized just for that, to deal with veterans. And the presiding judge over that court is Craig Johnson, who has that in addition to other duties that we'll find out. Judge Johnson, thanks for taking time to join us, and we want to find out what your court is all about. Let's begin, though, with a little recap, get you to recap your background and experience up to this point in 2 or 3 different areas.
Yes, yeah. My wife says I have a lot of careers. Well, I grew up in Coffee County, graduated from high school in 1982, went to Montlow first year and then to Middle Tennessee State University, where I graduated in 1986. I was also a member of the ROTC program there and got my commission in 1985, actually, and became a combat engineer officer.
Your commission was in engineering?
My commission was in combat engineering, yes. Okay. I was branched engineer, and as a reserve officer, my career over the next 33 years, I just retired last year as a colonel, spanned those 33 years as an officer at different levels of command and staff work. Right. Several deployments overseas to Iraq and Europe, and finished up my career in the military, reserve military, last year with a few months of active duty in Eastern Europe, as I kind of say, sticking our tongue out at Vladimir Putin as part of the European Reassurance Initiative.
Were you working with NATO?
Yes, we were working primarily with rotating reserves engineer soldiers there, doing some construction work on some of their training ranges and bases in the Romanian and Bulgarian area, the Black Sea region, basically. Yeah. They're kind of across the Black Sea from Crimea.
Right. All right. Well, let's come into the legal end of your background.
Well, after I was finished up my initial training as an officer, I came back and started law school at the University of Tennessee, and graduated from there with a law degree in 1990. And while I was studying for the bar, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, so I was mobilized in my platoon leader role with a local guard unit in Middle Tennessee, and went to Desert Storm. But when I came back, I became a member of the bar and worked for the state of Tennessee for about 1.5 years, but then came back to private practice in Manchester in 1992, and did that until I was elected one of the circuit judges for this judicial district in 1998. And I've been doing that on the civilian side since then. I think it's over 18 years now. Right. As a circuit judge, you're basically the jury trial level. I handle civil and criminal matters. Criminal felonies, everything from murder trials down to theft cases. And then on the civil side, I handle divorces, workers' comp, car accidents, business litigation, probate, just a lot of different things.
Very good. And migrated from there into the Veterans Court, and we'll find out some more about that. Well, okay, let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and find out about the Veterans Court.
All I have to do to think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do,
Everyday Miracles, Life Care Center of Tullahoma. Tired of paying for monthly telephone service, expensive long-distance bills, and all those crazy taxes? Are you sick of spending money on telephone equipment, maintenance contracts, and service calls, all for a phone system that shackles you to 100-year-old technology and your desk? Stop it. It's time to ship your phone system to the cloud. What can the cloud do for you? Bring together remote offices, workers, and employees in the field. Make sure that you'll never miss calls by delivering them to multiple devices. Modernize faxing by allowing multiple faxes to be sent and received at once. And deliver to email. Get your voicemail messages instantly through email too. And take advantage of an endless supply of customizable features. Host My Calls can deliver the cloud. All of this technology with low upfront costs and not one penny in capital expense. It's time for a phone solution you'll truly love from Host My Calls. Call the number below.
Greetings, folks, and we're back today with Judge Craig Johnson, who is the presiding judge over a newly formed Veterans Court, and we want to find out what that's all about. So, Judge Johnson, we seem to be headed towards setting up special courts. We've got the drug court and the mental health court, and now your court. And they're all a little bit different, so you're probably relying somewhat on the way they have operated. But why do we need a veterans court, and what are you all about?
Well, we're about getting services to justice-involved veterans. They've earned the help and the services and the gratitude.
But they're already in the justice system.
Yes, we call them justice-involved or court-involved veterans. Typically, a participant in our program has obviously, or at least allegedly, committed some crime. Usually it's nonviolent offenders, lower-level offenders that also have some type of mental health issue or an addiction issue, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And they need that extra help, they need that extra mentoring, and they need someone to help them navigate all the services that they've earned as a veteran. So the program and the court is set up on the drug or treatment court model. We have one of those in Coffee County that Judge Brock presides over. The same administrator, Mike Lewis, that does the drug and mental health court, also is the administrator for the Veterans Court, and basically he presides over all of the probation type services and officers that see the individual participants on an individual basis.
Okay, and you were organized last August. You had some training of several of you, I guess, and some of your staff. And then you went into business in September, I believe. And so now we've got 3 months. How is that going?
Right. We organized, as you said, this fall. We did several different levels of training. The participants on the Veterans Court team that include an assistant district attorney, the actual public defender himself, Mr. John Nickel, Jennifer Craighead from the DA's office. We have 2 Veterans Justice Outreach officers that are from the actual Veterans Affairs, the National Veterans Affairs. That's Amy and Rudy. And then we have other.
Do they come out of Murfreesboro?
They actually, I think their offices are somewhere in Nashville, because they have several veterans courts that they handle across Middle Tennessee. I know they do Montgomery County, which I think is the Fort Campbell area, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah.
And then they also help with the one in Rutherford County. Not every county has a veterans treatment court, so they have 3 or 4 other courts that they also participate in. We meet every other Tuesday. They're here for that. They're Johnny on the spot with looking up.
When you say we meet, are you talking about having your
court session? Yes.
Court sessions. Yeah. What do you call your members anyway? The guys, the vets that are involved in the program.
Participants. They are participants. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, well, then tell us. And I think you mentioned you're dealing primarily with those with either addiction or mental health problems. And so how many, how is that going? Is it, what are they doing, and who's helping, and so forth?
Yeah. So far, so good. It's the program is designed for about a year and a half or 2 years of intensive probation. They're required to meet weekly with their probation officers, which also steer them toward the services that are provided by the state and the federal government in regards to veteran services. Whether it's counseling, whether it's help with placement in a residential or outpatient type program, help with their family, help with housing, help with transportation, help with job, skill, and placement. There's just a lot of services that are provided free of charge that the VJOs, the Veterans Justice Outreach Officers, are there and schooled and trained, helping them navigate the system. The probation officers and Mr. Everett Jackson does that primarily for the Veterans Court. He's there. He helps them with meeting their appointments. We have Gene Stillings, who's a local veteran coordinator, who helps with getting them transportation or housing if they need it. And then all of us together help steer those participants to the places they need to go. Now, when they're on probation and doing this for a year and a half or 2 years, they're getting random and frequent drug screens. They're getting counseling. They're going through different types of training to help them, whether it's anger management or dealing with addiction or dealing with their mental health issues or all of the above, because we have some that, quite frankly, need help in all of those areas. They are there managing their probation to make sure that they successfully complete every phase of the program, so that in the end, year and a half, 2 years later, they're clean, they're sober, their life is stable, their family life is stable, and hopefully being a productive citizen with jobs and paying taxes. Now, the benefit that the community gets from this is that's one person who, one, is not committing any more criminal activity, but two, not taking up a bed in our local jail. We're not having to feed them, house them, and being a community that's having to deal with their justice or criminal justice activity.
Yeah, it's not exactly cheap to keep an inmate in the jail system, is it?
No, and I don't know what the exact monetary figure is, but it's probably somewhere between $40 and $80 a day when you count all of the costs.
I would think so. All right, and you assign each of your participants gets a mentor.
Yes.
And where do you find the mentor, and what is their job?
Well, that's one of the things that makes the Veterans Court unique from other treatment courts, is that we have assigned mentors. Every participant has a mentor, and in the military, if you're a veteran, you might know what a battle buddy is. It's somebody that's there, whether it's a shoulder to cry on or whether it's support when going through tough times. Every one of these mentors, and if you looked at the list of mentors we have, they are, a significant amount of our civic and business leaders in the community. But one of the qualifications for a mentor is they have to be a veteran themselves. Veterans respond when there's other veterans involved. They've all been through that unique culture. They understand the culture of the military, depending on doesn't matter which service it is. Military's kind of all the same in some regards. And they're just there with that person because they've been through the same things that they've been through, whether it's combat service, whether it's being away from their family, whether it's going through rigorous training, or all of the above in most cases. They've been there and done that. So they're a person that participant can look up to and get that support if needed. It's a great part of the program. And again, if you looked at our list of mentors, you would be impressed with the names and the businesses and the social services that these folks have been involved in. Just a great group of volunteers.
Okay. Well, let's pause for a minute. We need to take another short commercial break, and we'll be right back, folks.
trucks and more trucks. Keith Barnett here with the Russell Barnett Automotive family, and we have your next truck. From the Ford F-Series, the Ram, Chevrolet, or the GMC, then look no further than the Russell Barnett family. With over 350 new and pre-owned trucks to choose from, now is the time to buy. Stop by one of our 5 locations. That's Russell Barnett Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Chevrolet GMC, Ford of Winchester, and Russell Barnett Ford and Kia of Tullahoma, or visit us on the web at russellbarnett.com. Why buy anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
It's your trademark. That's something special everyone knows and remembers. It's your thing. It's made holidays special for decades and summers unforgettable for the entire neighborhood. It's made everyone laugh every single time. Don't let illness or injury keep you from doing your thing. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live well.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're talking today, folks, with Judge Craig Johnson, who is presiding over our new Veterans Court in Coffee County. And I wanted to find out, we've been trying to get the information for you and what that court's all about and who's eligible for it and things of that sort. So, and also, it's a Veterans Court, and you are having quite a bit of involvement with the Veterans Administration in your program. Is that correct? What do they do?
Yes, they're a key partner in our program. As I mentioned before, we have 2 VJOs, and we also have some folks that come from the State Veterans Affairs Office. They hold our hands in regards to navigating the health care and the mental health care system. They have the skills and the training to help our participants navigate the system, if you will. You hear a lot about in the news about the VA didn't do this, the long waits. Well, we've had nothing but great success so far with the Veterans Affairs Department and the State Department as well. They're just big partners and they help.
And you're using it, I understand it, you're using veterans programs, Veterans Administration programs for your participants, if there's a program available for them.
Absolutely.
That would so they're providing, I guess, most of the treatment rather than the county, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's the difference between other treatment courts and Veterans Court is really all of the services, most of them provided for free by the federal and state government and local veterans organizations. And then, of course, the mentor program is another big difference. Okay, and we want to talk quite a bit about this. And that is one of your key objectives is to try to get these folks out of the justice system and stay out. So you're trying very hard to reduce the recidivism rate, the return number of those that return, which in the general jail population is very high. Yes. 80%, I think it's 80% at least of the jail inmates are released when their term is up. And lo and behold, they're back in 2 or 3 months. And right. You're trying to fix that. Yeah, I think the recidivism rate, varies from county to county. Ours probably has been as high as what you mentioned, basically repeat offenders. What we've seen nationally, the statistics show, and what our local drug and mental health court have shown, is that we can get that recidivism rate down to 20 or 30%. And that's our goal here. I think the statistic is 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 veterans have mental health and addiction problems. A significant portion of those folks become justice involved at one point in their life. And if we can steer those people away from criminal activity, get them to be productive citizens again, we're not only saving all the money that we can save by them being productive citizens paying taxes, but we're also reducing the costs from the state and the county level in regards to incarceration and the cost to victims of criminal activity.
All right. Okay. And you mentioned, I think you're hoping you're expecting your program is designed to last for a year and a half, 2 years. You haven't been in business long enough to assess how that's going, but maybe you have a feel for it, or you, well, how many participants have you got up to this point?
Right now we have 6 solid participants. We've got 2 more that my team is looking into getting them into the program. You have to, some of these folks are justice involved in more than one place. They may have pending charges in other counties, other districts. So we have to coordinate with the other prosecutors' offices and defense attorneys and get everybody on board with the agreement to make their probation a part of Veterans Court.
Are they working with you okay? Are they?
Yes.
Your surrounding?
Yes, I would say
counties?
About half of my participants have criminal issues in other counties as well.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how many potential participants you've got out there?
In Coffee County, the veterans population, of course, is not as high as, say, the areas surrounding Fort Campbell or the areas surrounding other big military bases where veterans tend to settle after their military service. A lot of our participants are reserve soldiers who are now out of the reserves, but they did deploy once or twice to Afghanistan or Iraq. Most of our participants are under 30 years old, but we do have one or two that are 40 or 50 years old that are Vietnam veterans or veterans of Afghanistan or Iraq. So we're there to help. It doesn't matter, what conflict you were in, how old you are. It's all about getting you back to being a productive citizen.
How did they get started? How do you select them, and how do you find them? Are these people walking in the door, or you have to go out and hunt for them? Or?
That's a great question, Tom. It's like I said, we're a partnership. We have law enforcement partners. Loretta Tankersley represents the sheriff's office, and it really starts with intake. The sheriff's office, when somebody comes into the jail, reports into the jail, there's a list of questions they ask, and we have added the question. We don't ask if you're a veteran. The question is, have you ever been a member of the military? Because we will actually take folks who don't qualify for veteran services. In other words, they're not active duty retirees or active duty separated folks or active duty or combat deployment folks. For our area, since we don't have a very large veterans population, we're actually taking folks who may have only been in the reserves and never deployed, or folks that were in active duty or in the regular Army or regular services, but they had to get out. As long as they have a good discharge, in other words, they didn't get separated for bad conduct, we can take them in and try to help them. Now, they might not qualify for all the services that a combat veteran qualifies for, but we have other partners that we can get them the help they need.
Okay. Well, and I guess you mentioned if they have a bad conduct discharge, they're not qualified. They don't meet the criteria for your program.
Not usually. But the Veterans Affairs program has a separate program that will help a veteran who has an other than honorable discharge appeal that discharge, especially if it's a service-connected problem, an addiction or mental health or trauma that was service-connected. They can go back and have their discharge reviewed and get it upgraded in certain circumstances. So we'll actually help folks that have that problem. So once we've identified somebody as a possible participant and they qualify as far as the charges against them, then our Assistant District Attorney, Ms. Craighead, and our Public Defender, John Nickel, and his folks, they'll work together to steer that person to the Veterans Court. My staff and team will meet. We'll discuss their history, their problems and issues, get them a risk assessment, and if they qualify, we'll try to help them.
Okay. And no cost to the vets to be in your program?
Except a small probation fee, which they would have to pay otherwise if they were on probation. Yeah. All the other services, all the other counseling, the mental health, the addiction services is all provided by veterans organizations.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, guess what, Judge? As we frequently do, we've run out of time. We're going to have to take another short commercial break, folks, and wrap up.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Judge Craig Johnson, who is the head of the newly organized, he's presiding judge of the newly organized Veterans Court. And he's been explaining that program to us. And Judge Johnson, is there something that you might like to say to the folks? Go directly into the camera and speak to them.
I want to talk to family members and friends of veterans out there. If you know somebody that may be teetering on the brink of criminal activity, or maybe you fear are involved in criminal activity, or they're facing charges, talk to them about our Veterans Treatment Court. We can give them the help they need.
Who do they contact?
Well, Mike Lewis, who heads up, as I mentioned earlier, heads up the treatment court program. His office is in Manchester. And anybody involved in the justice system, lawyers, prosecutors, they all know how to get that person the help they need and get them to Mr. Lewis. Okay. We also take donations. We also take volunteers. As I mentioned before, the mentor program is a big program. If you're a veteran and you want to help fellow veterans, we need mentors from all the different services, because we like to hook up a mentor with somebody who's from the same service.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking time to join us.
Thank you, Tom.
We have run out of time, and I'd like to wish you folks a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, the old-fashioned way. And thank you for joining us, inviting us into your parlor, and we'll see you next time.